All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you're all safe and well. My name is Kristen Ciani. I'm a talent buyer with the Global Promoter C3 Presents by Day, and I'm also proud to serve as board president of the Austin Music Foundation. During my 5.5 years of service on the AMF board, I've come to better understand the many complex challenges facing our music community, and there are none more challenging than what we've had to endure this year. But I continue to be amazed by the resilience, the heart, and the grit of those within our music family, and better days are ahead. As this is AMF's last panel of the year, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our staff for their remarkable fortitude and unwavering dedication during the COVID pandemic. Kate Bernard, Emily Miller, and our executive director, Jenny Dugas, and our team of expert artist consultants, program lead Einar Peterson, Alex Vallejo, Johnny Gowdy, and our amazing guest consultants, Adrian Lake and Cam Turney. We're proud to present tonight's panel titled, Do You Need a Manager? A question that I hear asked very often, in partnership with the Austin Managers Collective and moderated by Amy Lombardi of TuneCore. We'll get started here in a minute, but first a few quick announcements. For those of you who are new to Austin Music Foundation, we're so happy you're here. AMF is a 501c3 nonprofit whose core mission is to strengthen, connect, and advance our local music industry and community. And after nearly 2 decades, we remain the only nonprofit arts service organization in Austin and the US dedicated to providing year-round music business training, mentoring, and focused professional development, free of cost. Through our impact-driven programs, which include educational webinars like these and one-on-one mentoring, we strive to provide a better pathway to career sustainability for Austin's most talented independent music creatives. To learn more about our programs and to donate, please visit the AMF website at austinmusicfoundation.org. You can also sign up for our newsletter and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you to the Cultural Arts Division for its continued support and to all of our wonderful supporters. With that, I am pleased to introduce our moderator, Amy Lombardi, an AMF executive board member and director of artist and partner relations for TuneCore's office here in Austin. Amy works with artists and music industry professionals on digital distribution strategies while increasing the brand's presence throughout Texas. She began her music industry career in New York City at A&M Records with stints in A&R and artist relations before settling in as a publicist role at Warner Brothers Records and then Nasty Little Man PR, representing artists such as REM, Radiohead, Van Halen, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Foo Fighters, Nico Case, and At the Drive-In. In 2000, Amy moved to Chicago to open the boutique PR firm Call Girl PR, launching the new Pornographers debut Mass Romantic and Alejandro Escovedo's A Man Under the Influence. Over the next 7 years, Amy represented seminal acts such as Wire, John Langford, Nico Case, Cass McCombs, The Handsome Family, and film projects ranging in subject from the elusive Jandek to self-proclaimed King of Bluegrass, Jimmy Martin. It's a mouthful. You've done so much. Can't even get it all straight. Also in 2000, Amy founded the talent management firm Beekeeper Corp, home to 3-time Grammy nominee Nico Case, singer-songwriter Cass McCombs, singer Kelly Hogan, and duos My Gold Mask and Escondido until 2014. Amy teaches record industry, a class at Austin Community College, and is obsessed with her dog, Arthur, who is an Instagram celebrity. Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for moderating.
It's my pleasure. Hashtag Arthur Lombardi.
He's famous.
He's famous in my house.
And in mine. He's a good friend of my dog as well.
That's true. That's true.
We're looking forward to a great panel discussion, so I'll kind of let you take it from here, and I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Kristen. I'm so excited to do this. I miss Austin people. I'm sure most of you do. I'm happy to hopefully see some faces tonight, and I'm happy to talk to this panel of really quality people and talented people. I feel like my bio is a little long. I think that was the wrong one. I'm totally okay with it. I just don't want to, overwhelm you, because you're going to be overwhelmed by these cool people that we're going to talk to. I'd like to first introduce Morgan Davis. There's going to be six guests on the panel tonight, starting with Morgan. Morgan is a critic, artist advocate. He's been on AMF panels. He's lectured at ACC and UT. He founded the Austin Managers Collective as a producer musician. He manages Katie Rain there, and he writes and performs with Katie, Johnny Jukebox, and also manages Croon. He produces films. His most recent film is the Grindhouse Pizza satire Duncan, which has gotten rave reviews from Vice, Gizmodo, Daily Beast. Morgan came here from Seattle, and he's doing really cool things in our community. And Morgan is also my friend, so thank you for joining us, Morgan.
Thank you for having me.
Your face.
Good to see you too.
And Morgan manages Katie Rain, whose face I want to see right now. One of Austin's most beloved pop artists. You want to put Austin on the pop metropolis, on the map. Performed tons of festivals all over the place. Hot Summer Nights, Queer Riot, ACL Fest. I remember in 2018, your single was "Song of the Summer" from NPR. Wait, I can't remember the name of it.
Rad Moves.
Right, Rad Moves, duh. And your most recent single is "You Got Me." I think you're like working on new stuff now with Frenchie Smith.
Yeah, we're gonna start working on music together. I'm really excited.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to see your face. And I knew you would have this color hair.
Awesome.
I was talking about it beforehand. I knew you would have this color. Another fantastic hair color, Lars Wolfschild, band manager. This woman, Lars is a Renaissance woman. Hi, Lars. Band manager, studio owner, designer, artist, activist, Texas native.
Yep.
A lot of them on this call, but not many left in Austin. Classically trained musician, chauffeur for Alan Parsons, of the Alan Parsons Project.
Yeah, that was funny. I was working for the Pink Floyd Laser Spectacular. I was like
10. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what were you, like 10?
Yeah,
you manage a couple of bands. You manage Pleasure Venom and what's the band you manage?
Blaxploitation.
Yes, sorry. And you consult, right? You consult for Black, Indigenous,
lately I've been
color, queer artists, and artists in general. So thank you for coming. I just seriously can't deal with your hair. It's amazing.
Thank you.
More great hair. Audrey Campbell of Pleasure Venom. Another Texas native. Strong punk front woman for Pleasure Venom. Singing about all the fantastic vices we have. And what I read about you is the absurdity of it all. Absurdity is like the best thing in the world to me. Like
Nice. Oh, thank you. It's nice to meet you, Amy. I'll see you on the other side of this, I'm sure. So
yeah, we'll get it on. And I know you guys opened for Garbage, and you went on tour in the UK, and you with the hair, fantastic. So I think
thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for coming. Alicia Lani, my friend, Austin's award-winning, like shining star singer, wood nymph, forest creature. I mean, just the cutest lady. former model, 2 albums, performed with George Clinton. She's I think you're a force, and I'm excited to hear what we have to say tonight. And I'm excited for new music because, you know, we got to listen to your vocal. We got to hear you. We got to hear that
I
voice.
released 2 singles this year.
Yes,
So
we
I'm
want
working on a new
more.
album. I'm working on it.
More. Where's Reno? Reno, Reno Dudley, another Renaissance person. Reno manages Alicia. You're been around. Are you from Austin, Reno?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my God, I love it. Yes, you know he's from Austin because he just said yes, ma'am, and I am not offended. Promoter, consultant. You co-founded Key Street Music.
Yes.
Is that the dog on cue?
Yeah. The dog is my hype man right now, I guess.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so you work with John Dees?
Yes.
Yes.
He's my business partner, co-founder. Honestly, very instrumental with Alicia as well.
Good. But he's not here tonight. No, I'm joking. I'm just kidding. So I want to welcome you all to our panel. Probably the question you guys all, I know it's the question I most get asked, right? And probably a lot of you had gotten this question before. Do you need a manager? So welcome everyone. I'm really happy to see your faces. So kind of want to start, I want to make sure I don't miss any good questions in here. So I kind of want to just start with like a little like panel overview. Like how did you guys, okay, so Morgan, Katie, Lars and Audrey, and Reno and Alicia, how did you all start working together and how long have you been working together? And I'll just throw it to Morgan.
Katie and I have only been working. We actually had to hash this out earlier today.
Yeah, I had to go and look back at my PayPal. I was like, when did I first start paying you to be my manager? I don't remember. But it was February of 2019. That's when we officially started and he took over as my manager. Yeah.
But I'd been aware of Katie for a long time. She was an artist that I had respected and had been watching her like grow. And then we just kind of had a discussion last year and it just made sense for us to start collaborating. And we both just kind of really had like just understood where each other was coming from. And I really thought that there was a lot of potential with what she had already done and that there were some things that I could bring to the table to kind of help her organize it and hopefully get to the next stages and just kind of just keep taking it further and further.
That's a big part of what a manager can help do.
Yeah.
How about Audrey and Lars? How about you two? Did you meet at
3 years, about this time 3 years ago, we started officially working together, I think. Audrey told the story way cuter than I think.
So, I mean, we met basically, so we used to do a lot of shows with Blaxploitation, who she was already managing. So it was I met her around 2017. She took us on and it was like over 3 years ago. Our first conversation was after a set at Mohawk and Blaxploitation was playing and she came up to me after we played and she was just like all about it. She fucking loved this. Oh, I already did it. She loved the sound.
Wasn't me this time.
I did it.
I didn't even notice.
It was me. I knew it was gonna be me.
until you said it?
All right, anyway, well, she's just like really was like, I think there's room for like, just a Black woman and rock and punk in the Austin music scene and also just the music scene in general. And the main thing that I remember from that conversation is that she was talking about how I kind of need to get my music outside of Austin. This, like, I'll get to it, but I'm like, it's a very white town. And so I should get it outside and try to play to that goth, the Black girl. That's me, that gothy queer Black girl, that's me or whatever. So that's pretty much like she was just really supportive out of the gate. And like, we kind of just talked as friends mainly. And then once I kind of threw my hat in that I was kind of looking for management, she kind of was like, this is what I can offer. And like what she kind of saw, like we have like similar goals and like, I don't know, I wanted to tour more and I saw that Blaxploitation toured more. They would play like Afro punk festival in New York. I'm like, I want to do that. Like, it just kind of made sense, and they were already homies, so it's kind of, the rest is herstory. So.
And then we tour with Garbage, so whatever.
Yeah, I mean, no big deal. I think that's how a lot of like fantastic management relationships start out, is like you really kind of come from a point of understanding what each other's talents are, you know, and you care about what the art is. So Reno, how about you and Alicia?
Honestly, I did a show, and then like after the show, I think Alicia was doing like a lot of hip hop shows or something like that at the time, and I heard the name, but she had messaged me. She was like, "Hey, the next time you promote a show, an R&B show, let me know." And I was like, "All right, cool," but I want to check her out and like see how she is live before I like commit to doing something like that. So I remember I was at it was actually South by Southwest, and Alicia was performing at Bat Bar, and she started performing, and like there was like maybe 7 people inside a Bat Bar. It's the middle of South by Southwest. It's the day party, but Bat Bar had like an inside and outside area, so that on the same stage you can go between both. So Alicia gets on stage and she starts going between both, and she's rocking the crowd all the way around and everything like that. And by the time she's done, like Bat Bar is full. Like she has packed out this entire thing that was empty when she started. And I remember I turned to the person who was like managing or helping her at the time, and I was like, yeah, I don't ever want to manage an artist. I do not. Understand, I don't. But if I did, I would want one of those, because that's a star right there. And like I left out, and then like me and Alicia stayed in contact, did a couple shows together. And then finally, like she went through a couple of different options on managers, and I was trying to help her and consult with her on that. And then when me and John decided to start Key Street, the first name I told him, I was like, "Hey, there's this chick named Alicia Lani who's a monster. She's a beast." And I mean, that was it. Yeah.
Monster and a beast, Alicia. Yeah.
Actually, Reno's my first manager. Like I had prospects. People wanted to be my manager, but I didn't like their reasons. I didn't like how they came at me, and I didn't see how they looked at me as beneficial to them. And I didn't care for it. And so me and Reno just clicked. I think we agreed over chewy, spicy martinis, Mexican martinis, right? We had like 4 each.
Exactly.
We had 4 shakers each.
I think that's
And then we hugged, and that's how we
Great.
like agreed. Yeah.
It was like
That was
3.
For anybody watching outside of Austin, this is Austin, so the
Yeah.
coast is wrong. I am. We'll get back to that. I'm curious about like how you didn't like how they came at you. Like that's part of this discussion. I think we're gonna get into it, like how you know, right? How you know that you're gonna be able to work with someone. So you said you didn't have a manager before. Audrey, had you? You know, did you have an idea of what a manager could do for you?
Somewhat. So basically, I had management before, and like we both had kind of like I had never been managed before. And this person, they'd never like managed a band before, so it was like a learning curve. We were just like learning together.
Yeah.
My main thing was that I felt like the workload was getting a little crazy just for me. So as like the singer of the band at the time, we were like a 5-piece. I still like kind of, I did the album art. I did, you know, your writing. We did a fuck ton of shows at the beginning. See, already happened. All right. Anyway.
It already happened 10 minutes ago. You're clear.
All right. Now I'm clear. Okay, good. But I'm sorry. But yeah, like, I don't know, I don't know, we just kind of learned together. But it was really helpful to kind of like have that experience so that I can kind of learn, like we both learn, like I know this person, they're still working in music and managing bands and stuff, and I wish them all success. But like whenever Lars kind of came around, like she manages other Black bands too, so it just kind of went that way. I am very grateful for all the experiences I had because I learned from all of them. But yeah, I mean, the main thing that I was looking for kind of in a manager was just kind of like, you know, I feel like my strong suit is all the creative stuff. Like I love directing videos. I love album art. I love writing. I love singing. That's what I'm good at. Now, whenever I was in school and doing music, I was learning scales and shit, you know? So it's like, I I wish I learned more about the business end, and I've always been kind of the type, like if I don't know how to do something, I think it might be like I don't know, I think it's a cool thing. Like I'm able to humble myself to go to someone that knows more than me. Like people like Lars know more about the businessy end, and I'm learning from her and through other people that I talk to. And most of the bands that I talk to, that especially the first couple of years that we were playing, we just kind of like, I saw bands and I would talk to them, and they had a team, they had a manager, they had, you know, and they toured and they did all this stuff. So it's just kind of more, it just felt like it was probably about 2 years after we were playing pretty actively that I met Lars. So I felt like that was a good time to bring on someone.
Really just clicked.
Yeah.
Like, we just got along so well. We were like, we need to work together. Like, sorry, like this is happening. It's like when you fall in love and you're just like, sorry, I found the one. And
yeah, I didn't think I was really ready for management, but like me and her just clicked, and we had all these ideas, and it just seemed like she had like a good understanding of who I am and how I want to be presented, and how I kind of just like, I don't know, it's very important. Like our band gets a little political sometimes. I don't know, I'm Black and punk and rock, so I'm automatically politicized. So I just kind of lean into it because I just don't care. Like people are already going to do it, so might as well talk about it, right? So I don't know, just having someone that kind of understood that like who I am and the things that I want to talk about, it felt really, we just clicked. It felt really cool meeting her, because
I think that's like a kinship, you know, when you find that person that you can not only like get along with on that level, but as a friendship level, and you kind of see each other and you go, I recognize you, you remind me of me, and we can click. But it's also like, can you like grow together and see like what the big picture is that, you know, is not today, but you're going to build towards that together. And I think that's like super exciting to find that like I don't want to say partner in crime, that's a cliche, but like,
I mean,
just
technically business partners for sure, like working towards the same thing, just in different
yeah, we both had a bit
coexist together.
bigger ideas, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to, because you can't do the same thing for your whole career, right? So especially if you're somebody who's creative and you have a lot of ideas, you're gonna want to keep building off of those. Katie, you had managers before. Alicia, you never did. How did you know that Morgan was like the one that you wanted to start working with?
Oh man. Well, I definitely knew that whatever I was doing before was like not working. So I had like a couple of people that were in roles, and I just felt like it wasn't really a good fit. And I felt like a lot of the time I was doing most of the work that a manager would be doing. Like I would ask for things to be done, would check in, they wouldn't be done. I'll hold my horror stories when you ask the horror stories question, but basically, like, I just didn't feel like the people who were managing my team were like really looking out for me. And I didn't know like if they knew like where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. It's like what Audrey said. It's like, oh my God, I forget what she said, but it's just like, you just know when you meet someone that they have a vision for you, and that vision is similar to your vision. And you're like, yeah, I'm missing this. And they're like, oh, I have the answer. And they're like, oh, I need this. And you're like, I got to connect. I can connect you with them like immediately. Don't worry about it. Like, I know people who can help you. And so just, yeah, realizing like you've met somebody that is interested in pushing you further and is interested and actually like, you know, if I tell Morgan like, hey, we should do this, what do you think? And he's like, yes, let's do that. I know that if I have a deadline, like I don't even have to remind him. I just know that it'll get done. And we're friends too. Like, you know, I'm in his ear all day talking about whatever my drama of the day is, and he's always like supportive, and we write together and we work together, and it's like a really symbiotic relationship, but like I know that his vision for me is even bigger than what I could envision for myself, because the things that we've accomplished together just in like the year that he's been managing me has been more than I had like my whole previous eras of my career. So even with COVID happening, like still managing that and going through all of that, like we've still hit some really awesome milestones. And yeah, I don't know. I just knew that he meant business, whereas like the other people that I had worked with, like I couldn't tell if their heart was really in it or if they really knew what they were doing. So yeah, Morgan definitely fit the bill.
I think that's part of it, right? Like finding that right person to work with who, like Katie, I know you were like, go, 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 go. Like if somebody's not going to do it when you could have done it, you're like, I could do it myself.
Oh yeah, and
but
that's what I ended up doing, is just doing a lot of the work myself. And I'm like, why am I giving this person the credit of being my manager if like I did it? I did it. Like,
and then sometimes I think there's like that relationship where people go, okay, well, you have a good sense of like timing and place and when it's the right time to move on this, when to move here. And so I think one of the biggest things I think about management is trust, right? It's like you get a vibe from each other. You go, okay, why did that? Maybe it's like a one item deal. Why did that happen yet? Because of this. And you go, oh, I didn't think about that other thing. So that's a good point. Glad you waited. It's just like an energy. You just kind of get in step with each other. Morgan, how many artists do you currently manage?
Well, it's 6 now. I just took on a new artist. I'm working with an artist named Faxed, who like I literally just signed this weekend. He's a really great yeah, he's an awesome like electronic producer, and I'm starting to work with more producers is kind of a thing that I've been trying to do for a while, and I feel like that's an area of the scene that is neglected on the management end. So I've been trying to kind of fix that in a little bit. But I work with Katie, Johnny Jukebox, Kroom, Goons, and Curbside Jones, and then Fax is the newest one. And I've tried to like assemble a team that all kind of like gels together and inspires each other. And they all work in different genres and do different things, but I like building a community. That's kind of always what I've done, is like I've been drawn towards that and trying to advocate for people and connect people together to like hopefully push each other and start teaming up and doing more work collectively. So
like Cole, the guitarist and lead singer from Goons, is actually the guitarist in my band. Mm-hmm. And he's working on a music video for me, which is like, because he's insanely good at like stop motion and animation and all this stuff. So that's awesome. And then like I'm gonna have Johnny Jukebox on a feature of one of my songs as like a special release. So it's really fun having other artists to work off of and collaborate with that and like we're all friends. We all hang out. Like it's really cool.
So Morgan, would you say that's like kind of like one of your management philosophies is like building a community or working with artists so that they can kind of like build their own hometown wherever they live?
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of come at it as an advocate. Like I never intended to do management. It's kind of a thing that I like lapsed into. Like I even remember having conversations with Audrey back in like 2016 or 2017 about what she's talking about. Neither of us will go into details about that whole story, but we had a lot of conversations about like that. And I remember even talking to Audrey back then, just being like, I don't really want to do management at any point. And then, now several years later, like it's a little different. But a lot of it is just that I felt like the pop and R&B and electronic scene in Austin in particular was not getting a lot of the support and help that it needed. And I had started working with some artists just to try to help them kind of understand some things that they could be doing to get more attention. And a lot of them felt that the scene here was just being disrespectful towards them. And as a booker and as a critic, I had seen that. And so I just kind of started working on that and trying to like break down some of the barriers for them and kind of use my privilege to help get them some more attention and start getting some more respect from the scene. And so through that, it just kind of ended up being like that it made sense to start working with them in a more official capacity, because I started to realize that there was probably more that I could do as a manager than I have been able to do as a journalist or a critic or even a show promoter.
Yeah, you can definitely get in there and get more done. Lars, like, do you have like a management philosophy?
Oh,
Or like, is there, you know, tenets you follow?
I would say like always be ready for change. Always be ready to completely throw out your entire strategy like at any given moment. And obviously that was very clear this year, but I mean, it's really something I've gone by a lot, you know, because things happen. And especially like when you work with political bands like I do, like the way technology is really just making things happen so much quicker. And just, it's crazy. Like this whole landscape is crazy. Like TikTok came out of nowhere, and it's just, you have to be ready to change and adapt. And yeah, you have to be okay with throwing things away, you know, I would say it's my biggest one. And always have on ice, you know?
Right.
Yeah, like photos or just like a song like, hey, that song really fits right now. Let's drop that single, you know?
That's a great tip. I hope everybody heard that. Like always have something, on ice. I love the way you said that. It's like, Reno, what do you think managers actually do? Like to give everybody like a kind of like a broad stroke and a micro dive, if you want, whatever you want to say. And you can all chime in on like what managers, like I know that some managers are like, some people have day-to-day managers and a top and a kind of like a bigger lead manager. I was both for my artists. I did all of it. Sometimes I had day-to-day people, and then sometimes they, you know, moved. So, you know, that it's kind of like when you work with artists and they get used to a certain way of traveling, or just like what they need from the sound engineer. So how you're going to advance a show and everything. I just feel like sometimes it was better for me to just handle everything, knowing that my artists had like specific needs. So I think it can go all over the place being a manager. So I'm curious what each of your management experiences are kind of like on day to day.
There was something that Kanye actually said today I thought made a lot of sense, where he was like, a lot of artists don't need managers. A manager is supposed to be a CEO of your career, which quite honestly, a lot of times that's what it comes down to. And that's why it takes so much trust, because you have somebody that's putting their essentially dream in your hands and saying, okay, you're going to assist me in getting there. You're going to be the person that's responding to these emails, negotiating with these lawyers and labels and different things like that, talking to tour bookers and things. And, you know, it's a huge thing. There's a lot of things outside of the scope that people would normally think of, where there might be a time that something may happen like at home or something like that, but you have a show that night. So you kind of just got to pivot and adjust to it, because, you know, just like Laura said, like things happen on a dime and you have to pivot. And I think that's why I love like even the whole series that the Music Foundation is doing is like time to pivot, because we've always needed to pivot. It's just now in the COVID era, you pivot 360 degrees 6 times a day. You know, it's a different thing, but that's the biggest thing. And on a micro level, every manager and their relationship with their art is going to be different. I think some artists, they'll get a manager and they actually wanted a booker. They get a manager and they actually wanted a public relations rep. They get a manager and they actually, because everybody just has this broad definition that a manager is just this end all be all that you come in and now you're going to it's like the person who helps you. Yeah, you build that team. You know, my job is to know things an inch deep and a mile wide. There are things that I have an expertise in, like, and there are other things that aren't my area. So we either outsource them or bring somebody on the team that doesn't. Like, art is not my strength. So I find people who do album covers and different things, and I'm like, Alicia, what do you want? How do you like it? Everything she'll tell you. I don't do creative that much. Like I want her vision on it for the most part. And so I think like it's in the words of Jay-Z, you got to be water. You fill any vessel and any role you need to fill that day.
I love that.
Yeah.
Jay-Z.
I really
That's
felt
why I've been working with him for like 5 years.
Oh, that answers my next question. When did you know you needed a manager? Apparently it was because he said he was quoting Jay-Z.
He smooth talked me in it. He smooth talked me into it. No, actually, it was really easy for me and Reno to connect. Like we have, I don't know, people think we're really brothers and sisters, but that is like my bro. That's my best friend. He's amazing. He's amazing. And he's so smart, so intelligent.
So Lars, you were just gonna put something in there.
I'm sorry about that, Lars.
Oh
No,
no, that's cool.
No, I love it, dude. So no, I was gonna say, like, with that, your manager, especially when you're a DIY kind of band or act, like we have to fill a lot of roles. Like I learned to sound engineer and now I have a recording studio. Like I didn't really know that much about that. And now I do. Now I'm like, because I had to go and talk to the sound guys when we didn't have a sound guy at shows, and like, don't do that to the drums, like, please, just, and, things like that, and PR. And then I've had, people that I was talking about managing and it, didn't work out. And I was like, you need a booker. Like I can't send all these billions of emails for you. Just, you need, I can try to get you, with a booking agency, but like, you're expected to fill like a lot of roles, and it's really demanding sometimes. Like I enjoy doing PR, but nothing is going to be better than actually hiring a PR company, so it's just
Right. And you kind of touched on something that that I think is important. Like, how do you as a manager, Morgan, how do you as a manager, we know how as you as a manager, how do you know when an artist is ready for management? Like, so I'm so used to the artist saying like, I need a manager. And my response is always like, what do you need a manager to do? And really their answer is like, tells me what they need. They need a booker, like you said, Lars, or they need a publicist, or they need somebody to just help boost their profile. But like a manager isn't like, a manager's gonna just move your career forward with everything that is can help you build momentum to keep moving the story forward, but they can't like make a story out of nowhere. So how do you know when you meet an artist that's ready for management?
Well, I think on that, it goes back to what Reno said, which is that the manager is kind of the CEO of your dream, right? So if you don't really have business coming in and you don't really have a lot of opportunities there, then there's still more work that you need to be doing on your own, because a manager ideally is going to come in and see that you have perseverance, that you have resources, and that you have a vision for your stuff, and that you've kind of worked out the basic kinks of it. And then you need someone that's going to help you finesse it and get it across the finish line, even though the finish line is always moving. But it's
get it out of your
Yeah.
head. Yeah.
But they basically, like, a manager is there to when you're, I think you've brought this up before. I know I've heard it from multiple people, of just like the whole thing of when you start to feel like the business side is domineering the art side of it, then that's usually like a good sign that you need a manager to come in. But if you don't really have business going on yet, then you don't really need a manager. And like you said, a lot of artists make the mistake of thinking a manager is there to book shows for you or is there to generate press for you. And we can do those things and we can help with that stuff, but that's not really what we are. We're project managers.
Right. That's a good way of putting it. Lars, what were you gonna say?
I think, we know that a band or an act is ready for management. Like Morgan said, definitely when you're just overwhelmed with emails, like obviously, you don't have time for that anymore. Yeah, that's definitely a good time to try to get some help. Also, like as a manager, you're looking for someone who has like some sort of social media following, some sort of, people who come to their shows, and they probably already have recorded something and released something with some sort of, acclaim or success or whatever. I mean, that's not necessary, but you know, you really do want to see that they're determined and that they're moving forward. That's the most important thing, you know, and having good press photos and artwork and yeah, that kind of thing.
Audrey, so I want to actually want to tag on what Laura said. Like the other thing about like, do you, as a manager, do you have to does the band have to be making money to pay a manager a percentage of what they're making? Like a manager makes a percent of what an artist makes. So if there's, you know, that can be kind of difficult if the artist isn't making a ton of money. Like you can work out an agreement if you're really meant to work together. You know, it's not like a cut and dry thing, but
yeah, I mean, it's catch-22, I think, because like it is like, well, the manager is going to help you make more money, but they don't want to work with you unless you're already making money. So yeah, there's like a sweet spot there, I guess.
it is a sweet spot.
True. Yeah, I mean, I think Lars probably put it best, kind of like, I don't know, whenever you're kind of like looking for like management, it's just, yeah, it's just about you two clicking and kind of deciding that, because it is kind of a catch-22. I kind of struggle with that for sure, where it's like, especially whenever we first started playing, it was like we weren't making, I don't think I was even asking for guarantees until I met Lars. Like it was like that. Like it kind of, yeah. Like that was mainly just doing tour and punk rock shows
for $50.
Yeah, and she was just kind of like, we were probably only active for like a couple years. I was doing okay, but it was like, and I was just trying to make sure that we're at least throwing on like good bills and stuff like that. But like I wasn't asking, just little shit like that. But it's like kind of having that little, I knew I probably needed somebody. It wasn't a doubt in my mind that I probably needed management, mainly because working in this town as a Black woman and in the punk rock scene and rock scene, like I just kind of felt like a little gatekeeper shit going on, and just, I don't know, it just felt like having somebody on my team that kind of like helped me kind of work through, like, I don't know, she's kind of like managing Blaxploitation, like, and talking, and like we were already friends. We kind of went through similar discrimination, fair pay, equal pay, something that we should still be talking about, not just for the venues. I don't want any more venues to close. Let's just go there. Whatever. I don't want any more venues to close, but I feel like it's a missed opportunity to talk about the artists also probably needing a bailout. Not probably, like artists are struggling just as hard as fucking venues, like for real talk. So that was around the time that I met Lars, and we were having those, like, that was literally a conversation that we're having about money and how much I was making. And she was like, shit, you could be making more. And I was like, but that's where it's like good management. It's just kind of, I was just glad that it was it's usually like a mutual thing of like taking each other on, you know, like you're both interviewing each other and making sure you both click. And yeah, like it was like Alicia said, like Lars is one of my best friends. Like we talk all the fucking time. Like it's great.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's a trusted, like,
trust is so important.
A trusted love affair, right? Like, and I always thought when I was a manager, I always felt like we're this, we understand each other. I know the thing. Just let me be the person to deliver the unseemly news or the difficult news. Let me have the uncomfortable conversation, because I always wanted the people that I managed to just be that. And that sounds kind of like a time and place brand kind of thing where like maybe you're two-dimensional, but it's really not that. It's like, I'm sure it was really uncomfortable, Audrey, having conversations that were difficult for you and not feeling like they were going to come back to your band. But when you have a manager doing it, there's just like, it's just really good to have that kind of protected
like punk rock, like you're supposed to like not care. And I'm like, all the money that I make usually funnels to the next thing I need. I need to be having these conversations. It's literally how I'm paying. I'm shooting a video next Thursday that I'm directing. Like I'm pretty much in that mode right now. Like probably after this call, I'm gonna go back to planning. Like we got a week. I'm gonna be crazy for about a week, but it's gonna be fine.
That's totally another panel about.
But I mean, it all pays for the next thing. The next show pays for the next video or the studio time. I have a rehearsal space that I pay for monthly. Like I can't be all punk rock about everything. I'm already black talking and shit. I don't know. Like
we have a very diverse panel here. We have Black women, we have LGBTQ, we have non-binary, we have, me, and like a 14-year-old boy. And yeah, so I mean, I think that like off topic, I think we're like, I'm hoping, I do see like some rumblings, like kind of just things just moving forward into the 21st century here. I want to be mindful of time a little bit, just so we stay on track and so we can get to audience questions and everything. But if anybody hasn't gotten a chance to respond to anything we just talked about, I want you to come forward now.
Yeah, I was going to say, as far as like managers wearing different hats, literally Morgan came in and was like, we need a live band. And I was like, absolutely. And he was like, we need a bass player. I was like, yeah, do you know anybody? And he was like, I'll do it. So like, he's my bass player in my band. And like, with Audrey having the conversations, I was lucky if I got paid $150 for a show that was a packed house, that was like a sold out show.
Katie wasn't doing guarantees either when I first walked in with her. I was really amazed by that because I'd seen her like pack venues all the time. I'm like, what do you mean you're not getting guarantees? Like you're not asking for money? No one was doing that for you before. And I was like,
yeah. So, so we went from that to like getting booked for ACL. So and like getting paid money for like every show that I played. It was like, wow, until COVID happened. And then, that's a different story. But yeah, like I'll ask him, he did my cover art for You Got Me and Love Struck. He does promo images for me if I have like an event going on. Like if I need help picking out an outfit, he'll help me out. If I have problems at work, he'll like do it. He's like my personal therapist sometimes, but also
that's
like,
another job of a manager.
Yeah, he will talk me down from the edge. Like I will want to post something very bad on social media, and Morgan will be like, "No, Katie, look at me. Katie, look at me. Don't do it."
I like that you just did the 2 fingers, because that's the thing. Like that's like, what the manager and the artist have to be. It's very
look at me. Like I know that you feel that way, but you cannot talk about that person like that on social media, or else your career will be over. So I know you feel that way, but we're just gonna not, and we'll deal with it later. And like just talks me down from the edge. And so yeah, he's like, I didn't realize that he was the manager I needed until I realized like, oh my God, like in just a matter of months, like I went from making no money at shows to making, money that I could live off of. And like it was astounding. So yeah.
Yeah, I think
like Morgan was putting pieces together. You were probably connecting all of the things that were here and here and here.
Yeah, because it's like I'm creative. Like I know how to plan a photo shoot, but I don't know how to use Photoshop. So like I can get the outfit together and I can get a photographer and I can execute on that. I can write a song, I can whatever, but like who am I going to use to promote it? Who do I need to be in my band? Who do I need to be working with in the future? Like I want to have a booking agency. Like he's helping me book shows now, but the goal is for him to not be booking my shows forever. It's to get a big booking agency. So like, it's always just like, yeah, building from what you have and making it bigger.
Yeah, and we've always worked on like roadmaps, like every step of the way. Like we always have check-in conversations about like, how are you feeling about where we're at right now? What's the next step? How are we looking for this thing that we're working on? And I think part of why Katie and I work so well together is we're both crazy people who just like have to be doing things at all times. So like, I would not recommend. Yeah, I would not recommend anyone else like having that approach of like doing everything. But both of us.
I'm going to reframe that real quick. I'm going to reframe that for you. You take value in doing great work, and you have big ideals that you know you can get to if you put the work in.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, we'll go with that. But I think a big part of it for people who are always wondering about like how management works or how the relationship works, I think at its heart, basically, it's someone that you can confide in like what you're wanting to achieve, and they can help you strategize that and get to where that is and do whatever it takes to get on that. But they're not miracle workers. Like, there's lots of things that we wish that we could achieve that we don't. And we're constantly like, a lot of like what went on when I first started working with Katie was kind of like getting her to understand that like you have to ask for things. And I think artists in particular struggle with that. I think that it's almost perceived as like a weakness, or that if you're asking for payment for your stuff, or if you're asking for fair credit on things, or if you're asking for more opportunities, then you're being vain, or you're being a nag, or like any of these like negative terms that we associate. Right. Yeah. And I think like a lot of that, when I was doing the guarantee discussion with her, was, Katie was convinced that venues would just not talk to her again if she asked for a guarantee, and that shows would dry up, or that, if she tried to like reach out to someone, then that would be perceived as like coattail writing or any of these things. And I was like, we have to just remove that altogether. Like, you just have to go for it.
Yeah, I think that's another great reason to have a manager, is just to like put the facts in place, put reality, like have the conversation, get it out of your head, put it in somebody else's hands and head, so they can kind of put it back into what's possible. So Reno, if you, one of the things that I think a lot of people want a manager for is like, because they think they have all these connections. A manager should have a lot of connections. A manager can have a lot of connections, but there's also like the idea of like making new connections. So like, especially like during the pandemic, right? So I know this isn't like something that we talked about discussing earlier, but everybody in town knows you. So like, it seems like you're somebody very easily, you have no problem reaching out to new people all the time to like make the next step happen for Alicia. Can you like talk about that at all?
I think a big thing is also you have to like understand that when you reach out to somebody, you have to have something to reach out to them with. We exist in a very fluid space, so a lot of people don't understand like, okay, when I get to this step, I need to have A, B, and C ready, because it's not like when you go apply for a job and they list out literally everything you need. They like, hey, we want somebody with a bachelor's degree with this exact years. It doesn't work like that in the music industry. Like, you're talking to people, and at the same time, like, another thing that you have to have the ability to communicate the benefit of your artist to a venue, to a brand, to a booking agency, because at the end of the day, it's like, we're not just going to book you just because she's down. Why is this going to benefit us? I mean, everybody's running a business at the same time. So a lot of it is, you build a lot of these relationships, and you build them in an area where it's not like, hey, I'm just meeting with you because I know I need something. It's like, we already have a relationship, and when our goals happen to align and it benefits us both like at an optimum level, that's when we will, work together on something. I think that was exhibited a lot in like even the relationships we were able to build with like amazing people at C3 in different areas. And, when Alicia hit the level she was ready and everything like that, we were brought up the ACL conversation. We had the ACL conversation with them. So that's a huge thing, is like, you want to be able to build those relationships, but they have to be organic relationships. You're not going just to talk to somebody and it's just like, man, I just want to get whatever I can out of you in these 5 minutes that we're talking. Like, check in on them, follow them. It's easy. Social media, you'll know what number their kid is on their basketball team. Like, just reach out, like, build relationships with people. That's a huge thing. Also, me being from here is a huge advantage as well, just because I've gotten to see a number of people like come and grow here. And I remember like the day they showed up and stuff like that. And I've kind of gotten to take on like a Tyrion Lannister role. I just tell the story at the end of it. That's like, that's kind of like,
Oh my God.
That's awesome. So that's been a huge advantage. And at the same time, like, Alicia herself is, I always say, she's like, Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls. She's bubbly. She'll like walk up to you, and next thing I know, she's best friends. Now we're talking and everything like that. So it's a dual-sided thing, having an artist who also has that it factor where they can like connect with people in a regular conversation and on stage it's important, because at the end of the day, everybody you're talking to is also gonna have to talk to them. So that's like a huge thing. And I think there's like non-musical aspects that go into like the artists that you choose. And I think that's been a huge part of even like a large number of the people I know is after I started working with Alicia and after we did shows and she killed these shows, and then we like organically would hang out in the backstage of Empire or just run into people at South by Southwest and talk to them, and then study your scene, know the different people and what they're doing and how they're moving, because once you have a background on somebody, it also helps build that rapport. It also helps that first conversation and things like that. You know, if I walk up to Morgan, I could talk to him about, you know, Overlord or Katie or any of the other 5 artists he's managing. You know, Audrey Campbell, I've seen Pleasure Venom get great press and different things that they've done. You know, I may not have ever talked to her, but I watch and I pay attention. Lars, even you, like where you're like, we haven't met. No, we have. And honestly, we follow each other on a number of different social medias. I'm like, yeah, no, I know what you're up to. I remember when you first moved down, it was you and another lady who I think she is the TuneCore rep for Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all were together when we first met. So you kind of have to.
Jean-Pierre?
Huh?
You know Jean-Pierre?
Yeah. Yeah. When I met you, that's who you were with, you know? Yeah.
She's
So,
the
you know, you meet those different people, and, you know, you have to like, I can tell you during South by Southwest, for instance, I keep a literal Google note sheet, and this is just me giving away, but I keep a note sheet. Every time I meet somebody, I literally put myself a note, their contact information. At the end of the South by Southwest, I go through and I'm like, okay, these are the people I met. These are the things that they do. This is the company they're from, so that it's not just like, oh, I gathered a bunch of cards and now I'm trying to like have these conversations.
Yeah,
with
you gotta have you gotta put a strategy to all of that.
Like,
That's what a manager can help you do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a couple of questions from the audience because we're almost at 8, and just we can go back and forth with any questions we haven't finished here, and we'll just populate, you know, some questions from the audience too. So here's a question. Aside from crossing your fingers, that's the rest of the question. That's exactly what I was saying.
Love it.
Song is amazing. Aside from crossing your fingers and hoping you manifest the manager of your dreams, if you're an active booked artist and know for a fact it's time to have a manager, there's that fact word is, where do we look? So Alicia, like where would you, as an artist, where would you look for a manager if not for Reno? Like how would you kind of scout the scene?
Well,
and does that mean Austin?
I literally did what he said. Scope your scene out. That's exactly what I did. And I inboxed him and I was like, look, I'm on all these hip hop shows. I want to see my peers. I want to see who's running R&B in the scene with me. I want to see who's doing what, you know, and it just came from there. Honestly, it's just making those relationships with people and seeing the aspects of business that they have and how they carry themselves. Do they show up? Do they do this? Are they attentive? All those things. And I got lucky. Reno didn't want to manage nobody until he met me. So I got lucky. But you know, you might find somebody that has multiple people they manage or this, and that, and the third. It's just all about making those relationships and finding that person that really believes in you. Like Reno made me feel the same way that Katie did, you know. And he was like, I just want you to be an artist. Like you're doing everything. You're booking, you're doing cover art, you're doing all this stuff. He's like, I want to see what else is inside of you. I want to see what else you got up in there. So I'm gonna do all this and you do all that. So it's really just really finding someone that really cares about you and your art, that really sees that potential and wants to see it as bad as you do. And they probably see more of it than what you see. I didn't see me doing all this. It was cool to put on a list to be like, hey, what if I did this? You know, but, you know, getting together with someone like-minded like him, our work ethic is weird. Like it don't matter what time of the day or night, whether, you know, we're respectable with our spouses and whatnot, but they understand too, which is great, that we work, we do business, we like to do good business. And when you find someone like that, hold on tight, hold on really tight. But luckily,
to each other.
yeah, luckily I found my match my first try. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have the experience of dealing with different people and how they worked. You know, I dealt with meetings and what they wanted to offer me, like I said before, and I wasn't really into it to where I didn't even move forward with it. But it's just when you find that person, you can start as a trial run, but it's really like finding your spouse. You gotta y'all gotta match. Y'all gotta have that vision, and he or she gotta see more of what's inside of you than you see in yourself, and they got to bring that out of you, be able to give you that room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think something that Reno said earlier was interesting. You're talking about relationships, how somebody's not just worth this one thing, and really, like, none of us are just worth that one thing, right? So, like, everybody has relationships in the music industry are so important. You know, somebody who was your intern, you could be working for them in 15, 20 years. You know, and the relationships you keep are really important. And when you decide to, blow the bridge up, or, when you decide to fix the bridge, those are really important decisions to make, considering like your future career. Let's not like disclose what everybody's financials are, okay? But one of the questions is, what's an average cost for a manager for a small band in Austin? So there are different ways that people do financial payouts of management, right? Some people do, it depends on how much income the artist has going on, right? So you can make a deal about this amount for this much time, or you can maybe do what? Audrey, do you want to talk to like what you think is reasonable for like with the not necessarily your personal financials, but just in general?
I feel like Lars probably we talked about this. Like, I feel like she has probably a better answer for this because it's
All right, then forget you, Lars. What do you want to say?
I mean, usually like between 10 and 20% is pretty reasonable, and that's going to be like, off of everything, like your shows, sometimes your merch, sometimes not, just your revenue from your merch. Sometimes like your manager will invest in your merch, so you guys do that together or something like that. And then sync licensing, those are going to be your bigger paychecks, especially now in the pandemic time.
Right. That's what you guys have been working a lot on, right?
Yeah. We've had to really grit down and focus on that. And I mean, yeah, it's sometimes, and it's fun. I mean, I think managing is kind of like gambling too, because like, or really like, because you could just suddenly just like get this email and it's like a payday, and it's exciting. I think it's really fun to do.
I loved it. It's like there is like a risk assessment to it, right? And also like when you're negotiating something for the first time, you kind of like, you can do a certain amount of research, but value it against where your artist is in their career. And there is like a little bit of playing poker there, right? So, should a manager handle all talks and negotiations pertaining to money?
No, they should talk with the artist first and see what the artist wants. And then the manager will gauge, okay, so like, this is the process. If I get an email and it involves money, I'm going to forward it to Morgan. I'm going to be like, Morgan, what is this bullshit? And he's going to be like, Katie, calm down. And we're going to talk about it. And we're going to like, be like, is this fair? Is this fair? Is this fair? And then we're going to come to a conclusion. And then for some reason, I don't know if it's because Morgan is a man and I am a woman, or I don't know if it's because he just says that he's my manager, but I tell him what I want him to say, and he will say it for me in the least angry manner that he possibly can, and say what I wanted to say, but it's just from his email.
Oh my God, that's just too much real talk for me. Good fuck.
I know. That's why you're laughing.
So it's just what I have to say.
This, like, in a nice way. Tell them to go like.
Yeah, exactly. So like, if it has to do with financials, yes, they will be answering it, but we're going to be talking about it at length Like, and he's basically, we're going to come to an agreement with like what he thinks that we should say. But it's mostly what I have to say. But he's like, we absolutely cannot say that or else we're going to get sued. And then I'm like, then just say it nice or whatever and get me what I want. And then Morgan is like, okay, you're crazy, but this is going to work. And then it works. And then it works out fine. And either they like politely decline and say like, oh, that offer is too high. We can't do it. And we barter, or they're like, yes, we love this. Let's do it. And I'm like, okay. And that's it. But that's pretty much with every email communication, whether it comes to Morgan or me, we show it to each other and hash it out.
Yeah, when I was a manager, I would say like, my artist would always say, oh, that sounds like a great idea. You should talk to Amy about that. And
yeah.
so, like, you know, they never really, it's the same thing. Like you both have to, managers and artists have to be on the same page about finances in the back end, behind closed doors. And, you know, that's where like all the real talk happens. And then there's like a united front, right? Morgan, what were you going to add?
Oh, well, a couple things. One was that
Amy's going to anger management class after she leaves the
Right.
Yes.
Well, I mean, there's a quote from like there was a profile of Irving Azoff recently where he was talking about how like part of what he is that he's a consigliere, but he's also a concierge. And so part of like stuff is that I'll give Katie some like background details sometimes on like, here's what we should consider for this, or maybe this is what we should do, or this is why this offer makes more sense, or why we should do something even though it doesn't pay as much as this other thing, you know. But at the end of the day, it's always her call, 100%.
Right.
Another thing though is that
you give her you give her context. You help her understand the context of the strategy, the bigger
because like
strategy.
sometimes there's stuff that like Katie might not be aware of like why it's a good decision for us to do it, or like, you know, why it would be worth it to do a favor for someone, especially with like kind of what Reno was talking about earlier with like C3 stuff of like, there's certain people that you want to keep happy because then it ultimately might pay off.
Checkers.
Right, exactly, yeah.
It is like a game of chess, and I have really bad ADD, and I'm a Capricorn, so I'm very bad at chess. I'm very bad at chess, and I need Morgan's help with the
So
chess.
funny, Katie. I love you.
But there's also another thing too, that like Reno and I've talked about before about how a lot of the things that go on with the managers that they're like a barricade, right? So they stop things from getting through that just I don't even need to let Katie know about because they're just bad. And that it's just gonna anger her to know about them, or it's gonna waste her
You're
time.
gonna hear it. You're
Exactly.
gonna hear it. They're not gonna hear it. They are.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that'll come through that I will just reject outright, or I'll try to like get it to a point where it's even worth presenting to Katie before I even tell her about it. So Katie only sees like a small percentage of like emails that come through to me. And then another thing that like I've worked on with Katie is like making it clear that like, remember the phrase, please contact my manager. Because like anytime someone is trying to go around your manager when they have all that, it's probably not good unless you already have a relationship with them. Yeah. So, you know, it's a lot of it is that you just want to make sure that someone is for real, because we'll get stuff that'll come through and it's obviously just someone blowing smoke up our ass. So it's just like, you know.
No, that's a really good point, because
You
I've
guys
actually
have
gotten that
10
curve
mouths on
before.
this panel right now.
But that's real talk. Like, I have to get used to
Yeah.
like, please talk to my manager, finding a way to, because I mean, I'll be like, I have a lot of friends or whatever on like Facebook or whatever, and I'll be like, okay, booking inquiries kind of need to go to my email, you know?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Because
really-
they're trying to make you
That
feel
sounds
guilty.
fantastic. You should talk to Lars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds so much fun. Talk to Morgan. Here's his info.
Yes.
She usually always gets me more money. Like I'm not good at that. Like I'll just be like, oh, no, I love my friends. I'm sorry.
And that's why they go around your managers, because they're trying
I'm
to
good
get
at
you
that.
to cheap out. Like they're trying to get you to feel bad so that you'll go lower.
I'm
Yeah.
so good at
You guys
that.
are cracking me up.
I'll be like, I don't care if they're your friend. Like
Exactly.
This is not enough for a wedding gift, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've gotten better, but like whenever that was an interesting transition whenever she first took me on. It was like, she's like, okay, Audrey, you need to like you have to be like, contact my manager. That's really good, Morgan. Like, get that in your head, like, contact my manager.
Mhm.
That's what
And
you're
if they
paying for.
respond like, "Oh, you have a manager,"
right.
Yeah. Good
I
way.
have this is a great indicator of whether they're serious. If you say, oh, that's great, contact my manager, this is his email, and they're like, you want me to contact your manager? Guarantee you they will never email your manager.
No.
If they think that they're trying to bamboozle you, they're trying to screw you out of money, they're trying to take advantage of you. If
Waste
you
your
say,
time mostly.
yeah, waste your time. So if you say, oh yeah, that sounds great, why don't you email my manager and we can discuss details? Like, that's not rude. That's not rude. You have a
No.
manager for a reason. You have a manager for a reason. You're a professional. So if they're a professional, they need to respect you. And that gets rid of so many issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if they respond like, oh, you have a manager, they probably can't even afford.
Exactly. Exactly.
So another question we got from the audience was, about if you're a songwriter, not necessarily the artist performer, do you need a manager? And I thought this was an interesting question for you, Morgan, and for you, Lars. Like, I mean, managing people who are also producers of other acts, and being like a manager producer, which is a total thing, do you ever feel like you would be interested, or can you provide any like kind of good steps for a songwriter? So I think a songwriter has like a different trajectory, right, than an artist. They're not going to be performing live, but they're going to be going to Nashville a lot, LA a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shopping.
Morgan can answer this really well.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot that can be brought to the table with songwriters and producers. I think that a lot of people who work in that realm, I think, undervalue themselves perhaps even more than artists do, because they're so behind the scenes, and it's they get taken advantage of quite a bit. I mean, like when you read up on the music history, like songwriters in particular were the group that was the most taken advantage of. Even though they're the ones who are really like making honestly, I would say the majority of the income in the music industry is like from publishing. That's why publishing was always such a big deal, and why labels were always like ripping off artists and songwriters on publishing, was because they knew that was where the money actually was. Yeah, and so I work with people who are primarily songwriters. Like Karoom is primarily a songwriter and producer. Faxt is also like in that realm too, and I think since they're so behind the scenes, they're even less used to advocating for themselves. So there's a lot on that. And there's also a lot of like pitfalls. Like a lot of them don't even realize the value of like why they should be setting themselves up as an LLC rather than going about as an independent contractor all the time. They don't realize how much money can get saved if you're actually creating an LLC for yourself, or they don't even know that they can do that. And they're also not like aware of a lot of the stuff that is available in the industry to help them shop their songs around. And they don't necessarily think global, even though if you're a songwriter, like you can really be getting your stuff out there all over the place. And, I think there's a lot of value there in that relationship.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is like a manager is going to connect you to whatever area you need to go in and exploit and blow up for your career, so that you can keep the momentum moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, as a manager, I'd be happy to represent songwriters, because I think sync is just such a huge thing, especially now. I think you definitely need a manager, and you definitely need to own your own publishing. You need to, you do need someone supporting you with that for sure. I mean, you can do it by yourself, but
it's way harder.
Yeah, it's way harder.
No, I agree. Go ahead, Alicia. Sorry.
I was saying, I was agreeing with them. Like, as a songwriter, like it'd be great to have a manager so you can continue to create. You ain't got to worry about back and forth communication. So who do I need to contact? Where do I start? Kind of thing.
Yeah, and like Lars, like you were saying, like pitching those songs. Like you can write a song, somebody else can, and you can have your version, and it can just be like this, Whitney Houston cover of Dolly's song, which is going to blow up, and Dolly's going to make a bunch of money, or like Elvis Costello version of a Nick Lowe song, and it's going to blow up and make a bunch of money. And so I also want to just point out what Laura said, just for songwriters out there, like she said, like own your publishing, like don't sell your publishing unless you're going to make some money, but definitely administer it so that it's like registered worldwide, because we live in a global music sphere right now.
Also, on the
Um,
music supervising front, a lot of sync companies, if you do not have yourself set up as a publishing company, or you have someone else that's doing it, you're going to lose out on sync opportunities, because that's a thing that I've dealt with artists, is getting everything set up on that, because a lot of those companies, because it's so, since sync has become so important, like if you're not making sure that everything is organized on that, you're just immediately shut out, because they just don't want to waste time. So you want to make sure that you have all that stuff organized ahead of time.
Mhm.
and have instrumentals of all of your work.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rena.
Always.
Stems.
It has sense. Rena, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was listening. I have
Oh,
anything.
I thought you were. I thought I heard a.
No, I'm listening. They manage the Sunrise producers. That's their area.
So, do you guys have any favorite resources to recommend for people who are like trying to kind of on the fence about whether or not they need a manager, like where they can go learn about more about? I always recommend like the like the dirty music industry books, like what is it called? About City Mansion on the Hill, and like all those good books. Do you guys have any recommendations about guides, blogs? How did you figure it? Like,
I got really into my first like thing that got me excited about managing was watching Supermensch about Shep Gordon. I was like, this guy literally has like worked with all these incredible people, and I didn't know who he was, embarrassingly, until I saw that film. And I mean, that just got me going. And then like for me, I just like to get on Wikipedia and just research like bands and their managers and their everything, you know, just like go down the wormhole on Wikipedia. That's, I mean, for me, is a big thing.
I think also a big part on that too is that Reno and myself are part of an entity here called the Managers Collective that our friend Louis Carr, he came up with the idea of and got
That's
us
right.
Flores on.
Yeah.
And I think in Austin, there's been a lot of effort to start doing more stuff like this in these panels to get people like more aware of what it is, because it would greatly benefit our entire ecosystem for there to be more people behind the scenes here. Because right now, a lot of stuff that we're doing, we're having to kind of navigate things that would be easier if there was more of us collectively. And that's also why like Lars is someone that we've been bringing into the fold, and we're working with other people and just trying to really grow that and mentor people and work with people. And I know that Reno, myself, Chris Flores, like everybody, we've worked with other people to kind of help them develop. And I think Reno, like you would say, like mentorship was a big part of how you learned management, right?
Yeah, I think mentorship is hugely important because you can't teach wisdom. So aside from like talking to people who are in it and who are doing it, and then like I read books like the normal books, that everything you need to know about the music industry and all those, which are necessary evils, but I also read books like L.A. Reid Sing to Me, which is kind of like the background story of him and everything he did when they were starting up LaFace and, you know, different things like that. Because you learn a lot from like the Clive Davis biographies and things like that, because you learn a lot from the people who are successful at the things that you did. Now, the music industry was different when they were doing it. So that you have to take it and adapt along with it. But I mean, that's a huge thing. And I don't think you should never stop learning as a manager. I'm always looking.
1000%.
Yeah, like you should always be learning, always be looking into the newest thing, figuring out the newest thing and learning from people, because there are different things you can learn. I mean, we can all probably go find a kid who knows more about TikTok than all of us put together, you know?
Exactly.
So you'll find knowledge in just different areas. And I think that's like a huge thing, is like, once again, make yourself as just mentally versatile as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's also a big part of why the mentorship is important, because it goes both ways, because there's things that we learn from each other. And I think for a lot of us that have been here for a while, it's extremely important for us to keep talking to new people who are coming up, or people who are coming from different approaches, and working with like, you know, intern students, anyone who's got an interest in this, to kind of like learn both ways. And I think also like what Rena was saying about doing your reading, your biographies, that is so key, because even though things have changed, the core fundamentals of the music industry have remained the same, especially the one that says, you know, artists always need to be ripped off, which is why managers have to exist in the first place. So Lars had mentioned Supermensch. There's another documentary that I recommend to everybody that's about Danny Fields. It's called Danny Says. And that one is a documentary that I recommend for people because it's the most real about like what being a manager actually is, because it gets into things of what hell you go through trying to advocate for your artist and the bad experiences there are, the horror stories. Like one of my favorite moments in it is he's talking about trying to get the Stooges to do a show that was very important in LA, and he had rented a truck for them and had rented all his equipment for them, and they just had to drive the truck and get there. But he told them, remember, it's a 16-foot clearance. And then they, of course, Iggy Pop is driving, goes under an overpass and carves off the entire top of the truck and loses all the gear and totally ruins Danny Field's life. So, you know, it gets into that stuff of like the other side of management.
I think one of the things that I like best about those music industry books is like the things that you can realize that can go wrong before you even know.
Exactly.
It's the stuff that you don't even know yet. You didn't know the question asked, but now you go, oh, well, that's something that could have gone wrong. So I should pay attention to that when we get to that point. We have another question here, which I think is a really good question. Is it better to seek out a manager that has a higher profile, or is it more valuable to find a manager that suits you, even if they're just starting out? This question is very personal to me. So Alicia.
It's fluid. Yeah.
I think it just depends, because like you could get with someone that's high profile, but do they care? You know, do they care about you as an artist? Do they have the time for you? Are they gonna make moves for you? You know what I'm saying? Or do you get someone that's really gonna ride for you? They might not have the biggest, you know, name or anything, but they're gonna ride for you till the wheels fall off. I'd rather go that route, honestly, than getting someone that has a big name.
Yeah, and like on the side of like advocating for my artists, most of my worst experiences have been with like what are top level managers who are just completely mentally checked out of their artist career. Like there's been stuff where, especially with some of my producers, of trying to just get basic like split sheet signed for collaborations, and then them being like, my manager needs to go over this, and it's like a year passes of just like, can we either give me an answer or not, but like I really need to move on this, like, you know, like that type of stuff is the most frustrating.
Yeah, I actually talked with an artist. We became friends on Instagram, and she like had asked me for advice on like who to use for Spotify promotion one time, and I helped her out. But I was asking her like what was going on, and she said that she had picked up like a huge profile manager, and they hadn't done anything for her. All they had done is just charged her money, and she was really disappointed and really upset, to where literally I don't know her. I've never met her personally. We just know each other through Instagram, but I gave her more worthwhile advice on Spotify promotion than her own manager did. So I feel like you should go with who you vibe with, and yeah, like Alicia said, who's going to ride with you, because they could be Scooter Braun, but like, what are they gonna pay to put your song on the radio? No. Like, what are they gonna do?
They're not gonna have your name saved in their phone.
Yeah, like that's the most that they're gonna do for you. Like they aren't gonna, they don't care about you as much as they care about Justin Bieber. They've got Justin Bieber. Why would they have time for you?
Yeah, somebody that like rides for you is more important, way more important. Like I hear the same thing that happens like with people that get signed to big labels and stuff. You can just get, and then you're gone and you're kicked out because they didn't really invest into your career to begin with. So you probably would have been better a free agent, I don't know, than signed to some big, you know, it's kind of a similar thing. So.
Yeah, I think it depends on like, you know, what the intention is for everyone. And if everybody's coming to the table in an honest way. And it's really, you know, that can be difficult to determine. You know your manager, you know your artist, you know, when you go into any deal, it's, you know, it's good to put the toe in the water and kind of just see how that feels and try to spend some time. It's hard to make like fast financial decisions that could have like really bad repercussions if it doesn't work out. So I always think like leverage yourself before you sign anything, so that you're always going to sign something that's more in your favor.
Be a music lawyer.
Yeah, always have yeah, totally. I mean, a manager negotiates the deal, but the lawyer puts it into legalese, right? So they make sure that you're like locked in. We have another question from the audience, and we just have a couple of minutes left. We've got like 4 minutes left. But Audrey, I feel like I haven't heard from you as much as I wanted to tonight.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put a little spotlight on you.
All right, I'm ready.
So, you know, what are some do you have like some pointers that artists can like follow to get the most out of their management? Like you and Lars are like, you're very symbiotic. If you know that the relationship is there, but things get busy or things like what's a good workflow that you've worked out with Lars?
So
like for when you both are busy, you can't get in touch with each other.
Everyone should read. Yeah. Like a book everyone should read as an artist is called, I think it's Martin Atkins, The Music Industry, You're Fucked. Start there. We kind of came on like, I don't know, I feel like me and Lars get on really well about as far as like having similar goals and kind of throwing that energy out in the world, and usually it happens. Like last year, we talked at pretty much the top of the year, and I was like, I want to tour more, and it'd be cool if I could open up for some band that I like or whatever. And we ended up opening up for Garbage. We opened for Against Me. I did a UK tour this year. I mean, with COVID and stuff. But I at the top of the year, we basically were kind of throwing that shit out in the world that we wanted to talk sync licensing and label interest. And we signed a sync licensing deal with Terror Bird over the summer. So I'm super happy about that. And yeah, like we're talking to a couple labels. We'll see how that goes. But you know, like, I don't know, it's just kind of having that, like, of wanting the same thing, and just kind of like, I go and talk to her kind of about what I want, but she's kind of already synced up because she's been there for 3 years, 3+ years at this point. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, that's been really beneficial to me, just kind of having someone with me throwing shit on the board. Like we're taking it off.
Oh, sorry, Lars, go ahead.
She also goes on tour with us too, which is really cool. Like she went to the UK. She
my
went
favorite part. Like that's why would I? Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
But,
she goes, you think I'm gonna send you to the UK without?
I'm just at home.
I would have been so lost. Oh my God, if you weren't there.
No, but I think that was we realized like how much power we had of manifesting things together. And then we realized there were like negative things we were talking about too. And we're like, dude, we need to be careful with those negative things because clearly these positive things are like manifesting.
Right.
So we need to like cool it on those negative things because we're getting a little too, you know,
well, there's like,
our minds are sinking.
People will try and jump on like, I don't know, you throw up a video or a video death. Like there'll be people that like, you know, it's kind of, it was written about like Tamir Rice, that song, and the video is kind of very pointed as well. Like, where do I want to spend my energy? In the comment section? I don't care. Like I just, it's about like kind of finding the best way to use your energy, and the negative stuff. Like we can actually be doing something productive versus focusing on distracting things. Like that's been kind of like what I've been honing in like most of this year. And it's been good. Even through all this COVID, I probably would have went crazy. I don't know. Like I just kind of like let it go.
I think that's great. I think like we're at our close, but I think what you guys just were talking about is so important to like put down your goals, put down the reasonable goals, put down the crazy goals, put it on paper, put it in order, or put it on a computer, or whatever. Put it in order so you feel like you have like steps that you can go to on a ladder, because it feels really good to cross those performance goals, those media goals. Like it feels really good to cross them off along your way. And you guys have amazing teams, so you're lucky to have each other. So I think we're at the end of our panel tonight. Sorry for everybody whose questions we didn't get to. EMF is always having these panels for time to pivot, which they've been doing during COVID. You guys, I'm so happy to see your faces, for the ones I know, for the ones who I haven't met before, for the ones that I met during South by. I can't, forgive me, Reno. But I think I'm gonna I think we're handing it back to AMF, or maybe we're just saying goodnight. We will,
Okay, before you sign out, I want to say that Amy is a very great resource for people who are asking about like learning the structure here. Amy Lombardi has been an amazing person to know. She does really great mixers, and I know that right now that's kind of on hold, but Amy is one of the people that I would highly suggest getting to know and introducing yourself to and familiarizing yourself with. She's a great ally here. So I just want to say thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Morgan. Thanks for inviting me. I am Amy. I'm Amy Lombardi. I know it says my TuneCore thing on there, but yeah, I love artists. I love artist managers. I'm protective of both in different ways. And I feel like everybody needs to take care of themselves. And you guys, thank you so much. It was so great to see your faces. And big kiss to everybody who's watching. Thank you for tuning in. Love Austin. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Great seeing you all.
Bye.
Bye.